All right, so back in 2019, I did a piano play-along video to Zanzibar by Billy Joel, and for reasons I can't explain, it became the most popular video on my channel. So I thought I'd do a tutorial to it because I got a couple requests. So just a short introduction. Everything I used to learn the song was provided by two other YouTube channels, and I'm gonna provide links to those channels in the description, or I'll probably do it in the comments. Um, and then finally, I just want to give a disclaimer that, I'm going to go through this song pretty quickly, unlike other tutorials. And please rewind if you need to see stuff again, but I'm kind of just assuming people watching this kind of know how the song goes. I'm not going to go into extreme detail with the rhythms. And I'm going to have the chords listed up here and maybe some notes that you can consider along the way. So hopefully that makes it a little less fast-paced. But let's get started. The intro to this song is going to go something like this. Okay, so what you're doing there is you're going to start on a G augmented chord. So in your right hand, that's going to be G, B, and D sharp. And I'll say in the bass, you're going to have G's, G octaves, and I'll say now that the whole time through this song, your left hand is going to be doing octaves. So if you ever can't see my pinky, it's just doing what my thumb is doing, an octave lower. Okay, so with this chord, you're going to do an arpeggio upwards until you get to this high G here. So that'll go. In your left hand here, you're going to do G, and then you're going to go to B and E. And when you hit that E, you're going to do an E augmented chord in your right hand. So that'll be G sharp, B sharp, and E. So I'll play that slowly. And in live versions, sometimes Billy Joel will do like kind of a little downwards arpeggio before going the upwards way, so it'll be like whatever floats your boat. And then let's get into this A minor kind of progression that starts the verse. So that sounds something like. So you have A minor 9, which is G, B, C, E. And in the bass, you're doing A, E, G, A. So just slow it down a little bit. Okay, so next we're going to do the first half of the verse, and that is going to sound like this. Okay, so something I should have mentioned a little earlier is when you're doing this A minor 9, you can either do it totally without the sustain pedal, which I think is what he's doing on the album, but if you're playing this solo, I think it sounds a little empty, so I like to use the sustain pedal until I hit that E. I think that just kind of makes the sound a little fuller. So from that A minor 9, you're going to go, that's an F7 chord, so in your right hand you have F, A, C, E flat, and in the bass you're doing F, C, E flat. And I have, hopefully you can read this, the bass notes kind of written out here. Then you go back to that A minor 9 chord. You hit A twice, and then you go to a B flat major 9. So that's B flat in the bass. Then you have A, C, D, and F. So I'll play that slowly here. Okay, So what I should note is that I've been listening to the isolated piano track a couple times, and Billy Joel is pretty inconsistent with the bass notes here. For instance, sometimes to get into that B flat major 9 chord, sometimes he does, and other times he'll do like G, A, B, or just like little things like that. So it doesn't make a big difference, but what I've written here is the most consistently what he does. And then I have written here, if you aren't familiar with this kind of notation, NC means no chord. So the second part of the verse is going to go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, now, honestly, this is probably the hardest part of this song for me to explain. So I'm just gonna, I think less is more with words here, and I'm kind of just gonna go through this pretty slowly. So what we're looking at right now are these two bars here, the C and F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So in your right hand, you're kind of pivoting these fingers. And then once you get to that G, going to an F. In your right hand, your left hand, you're going to go C to an F, C, F. So I'll do that slowly here. Okay. And then this next part here, this is a little easier. So now your right hand is doing, you should end on an A minor 7, which is G, A, C, E. And then in your left hand, you were doing C, B, A. So. Then you're doing a B half diminished 7. That's going to be B in the bass, A, D, F. Then E in the bass. That chord is an E augmented with a sharp 9. So E in the bass, G sharp, B sharp, or C, whatever. Then E, and this is a G, but it's, properly called F double sharp because it's a sharp 9. So I'm going to play this whole line again, but slowly. So, 1. Now, hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen, because we are not done with the verse yet. What we still have is this nice second ending Billy gives us. And so here, I'm gonna play this, but I'm gonna start with this part, and then, so like, if you don't know how sheet music works, this will go here, and then instead of that first part, you'll just cut right down to here. So that'll go 1. Okay, so these two bars, the same, right? When we get down to here, this is an E augmented chord. So E in the bass, you're gonna have G sharp, B sharp, and E. And you're gonna use your middle and pinky fingers to hit D and F to go back and forth. Right? And after that, the A minor 7 and the B diminished 7 are exactly what you played up here. So, now the next change is that instead of this E chord, you're doing a G7. That is going to be G in the bass, in your right hand, G, B, D, F. And that's going to be a nice 5-7 chord, if you know what that means. That'll get us to C for the start of the chorus. So I'm going to play that again, starting up here. So we'll go 1. Okay, so now we're going to get into the chorus that follows the verse, and that is going to go like this. So I'm going to do just the right hand part of this first line. It's going to be all eighth notes, so just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And the first chord, it's going to be a C major triad, so it's going to be C, E, G. Then you're going to move your thumb and your middle finger down by a half step to make a G augmented chord, so it's going to be B, D sharp, and G. Third chord is going to be a C minor 7. You're just moving your thumb down a half step. Fourth chord here, you're going to be doing the third, fifth, 7th, and 9th of an F minor 9 chord. So it's going to be A flat, C, E flat, G. Then you're just doing a B flat triad. It's going to be B flat, D, F. And the last chord of the line, you're doing the 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th of an E flat major 9 triad, or chord, sorry. And so that's just going to be G, B flat, D, F. Now the bass part, I'm just going to do it here. I have the bass notes written out here so you can follow along, or if you want to pause the video and try and get it on your own. It's going to go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to put those both together. I know this isn't something, it's going to take a bit of practice, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to put them together pretty slowly here because I think you'll understand how it goes. So. So now we are at the second line here. Now I'm going to do the left and right hand together now. So your first chord is going to be an A flat major 7. So in your left hand, A flat octaves, and your right hand, you're going to have G, C, E flat, G. Then that G minor 7 chord is going to be G's in the bass, and then in your right hand, G, B flat, D, F. And then the last chord of that bar will be an F minor 7, which is F's in the bass. It'll be in your right hand, F, A flat, C, E flat. So then going to the second measure of the second line here, you're going to have an F sharp, and I'll go over this in its entirety once I get through some of these chords here. So it'll be an F sharp diminished 7, so that's going to be F sharp, A, C, E flat with F sharps in the bass. And then you're going to do a G minor 7, although this one I voice differently, and I think Billy does too. I do G's in the bass, F, B flat, D. So to put those these kind of 3 bars together here, it'll go, sorry, let me start that again. Okay, something like that. Then this chord here, that's an A flat major 7. So A flat's in the bass, and it's going to be G, C, E flat. This chord here it's going to be A flat 7 with a flat 5, but easier just said as you're going to have A flats in the bass, and then you're going to have a G flat and a C in your right hand. And the last new chord is a D7. That's going to be D in the bass, A, C, and F sharp. So that was a lot in a little bit of time. Let's go through this line here. So it's going to go. I got a tab at So yeah, those 2 bars is just going back to the intro we did at the beginning of the video, just doing that G augmented arpeggio. And that's basically the chorus there. The only thing to add is that after the chorus, you go back into that A minor 9 kind of thing that gets you into the verse. And at the end of that 4-bar phrase, right before the second verse starts, he does a little, I guess you could call it a fill, where he has E in the bass, and he does G sharp, C, G, to G sharp, C, F. So that'll go. Okay, so now we are at the interlude part, or kind of Billy's piano solo before the Flugelhorn solo. And for this part, I don't think I'm going to say what the chords are or kind of try and get the right enharmonic note names. I'm just going to kind of say what is easiest for me. But it's going to start, we'll do the first line here first. So it's going to start with that G augmented chord from the intro, but instead of doing... Now, after you hit D sharp, you're going to come back to that B. And if you want to play it exactly like Billy, when you get to the higher octave, you're going to add intervals. So you'll have D sharp and G, G and B, B and D sharp, then D sharp and G. So let me play that slowly here. That gets you into the kind of start of the solo, the first chord there. So this chord, you have C in the bass, and then in your right hand you have A, D, and G. While you're sustaining that, you're going to go chromatically down from G to F, then to the next chord. So that's going to be A's in the bass, and you're going to have F sharp, B, E in your right hand. This chord, it's going to be F in the bass, and then you're going to have E flat, A flat, and D flat. So that's the first line. We made a checkpoint, so let's go through that pretty slowly here. So I just ended on the first chord of the second line there, and I realized as I was rewatching the last take that I didn't actually go through this whole form to just show you what it sounds like. So I'll do that at the end, and I'll do it slowly too. But let's just go ahead and start with the second line here. So that's going to be D's in the bass, and then you're going to have C, F, B flat in your right hand. Then you're going to go chromatic, while sustaining that, you're going to go chromatically down, B flat, A flat. Oopsie. So this chord, you're going to have B's in the bass, and then in your right hand, it's going to be A, D, G. And what you'll notice is this progression coming up here, it's going to be in your right hand the same chord shapes as you just did, but with different bass notes. So once again, B's in the bass, A, D, G. Here you have A flats in the bass, and F sharp, B, E. This is going to be F in the bass, F's in the bass, then E flat, A flat, D flat. And this is going to be an E minor 6 chord, I would call it. So you have E's in the bass, and then you have in your right hand E, G, and C sharp. So let's go through that second line there. Okay, so that's a kind of a second checkpoint there. Okay, so we just left off at that kind of dark E minor 6 chord there. And by the way, these checkpoints are more for me than they are for you. But from this chord, you're going to sustain that. And while that's sustained, you're going to move your thumb over to the G and do this little. So that's going to be G, D flat to D, and you're going to kind of trill that and end on a B. When you hit that B, you're going to move your bass note from E chromatically down to E flat. So that'll be and here you're kind of just spelling out a B major triad with your right hand, so B, D sharp, F sharp. Here you have D in the bass. By the way, we're on the D6 chord. So you have D in the bass, F sharp, and B, and you're gonna do. So it's almost the exact same rhythm as what you did under the E minor 6 to the B chord. Now you're doing that with a D6 to an A chord. So you're doing F sharp, B, then you're gonna kind of like do a little trill between B and C sharp and land on A. When you hit the A, you're gonna have C sharp in the bass, and then you're gonna spell out an A triad, so A, C sharp, E. So let's kind of go over what we just did there. So I'll play it slowly here. We just landed on that C6 chord there, so you have C in the bass, and your right hand you have E and A, and then you're gonna add C with your ring finger. Then you're gonna do it an octave higher in your right hand, and like that. After that, do B, but now an octave, you were down here, do the B an octave higher. So in your right hand, that's gonna be D sharp, F sharp, and C. Now you want to sustain that and then hit B, and then once you go to this G sharp, hit an E in your left hand. So let me play that part again. And you want to hit that G sharp with your pinky, because what you're going to do next is kind of make this little stretch. So what that is you're going G sharp, B, B, D, D, F, F, G sharp, and then G sharp, B. So. And he just does it up to there, but you could like keep going with that if you want to make like a fermata effect. Okay, so I've done a whole lot of explaining and not a whole lot of playing with this section, so let's get into it. Now we are in the Flugelhorn solo part, and I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail here. In fact, I don't think I'm going to explain it much at all. Just because, one, I'm not exactly sure if I have what he's doing right. Two, because this video is already long enough. And then three, like, he's comping as like a jazz pianist kind of thing. So he would never like play it the same way twice. So if you're playing this in a band, it's not like this would be the center of attention. And if you're playing it solo, you wouldn't do this anyway because it's pretty empty. So I'm just going to kind of go through quickly what I think he's kind of doing. And I'll start at the end of the interlude. On to the next verse from there. So once again, I'm not really going to explain what I'm doing, but I'll just kind of play it slowly, and maybe you can take some ideas from this if you're in a band and you want to like comp along. So I'll just start kind of right about here. The last new material in this song is the trumpet solo at the end that makes up like the last, I don't know, minute of the recording. And this section, I'm going to go even less detail. I'm not even going to really play anything. What I just want to say is instead of doing your kind of comping over the chords of the verse like you did with the flugelhorn solo, for the trumpet solo, it just does the 3 chords at the beginning of the verse and then goes right back to it. So you don't go into the section with like, you don't do those chords while you're comping in this part. And then honestly, yeah, I wouldn't even try to duplicate what he's doing on the record here. I'd actually encourage people watching this to go to the isolated piano track I link in the comments, because it's actually kind of funny like how ridiculous it is. Like he'll just be like just just messing around. So have fun with that on your own.